Welcome to The Naked Truth. And now, your host, Brigitte Barclay.
Hi guys, welcome and good evening, good America and good morning England, and welcome to the UnX Radio podcast with myself of The Naked Truth, Brigitte Barclay. And today's guest is one of my very good old friends for 12 years, is Andrew Gough. And if any of you hadn't heard about Andrew Gough here in England, he is American. He's from Chicago. He lives here in half in England and half in Istanbul working, but he is absolutely amazing. He has a plethora of features. He knows so much on absolutely everything. And he is also shadow banned. So I am going to introduce Andrew Gough, and welcome to The Naked Truth, Andrew.
For having me, and congratulations on your show.
Thank you. Well, friends are coming on first to help me out of deep water. And friends that we've worked with, because we have worked together. But thank you, Andrew. And welcome to The Naked Truth, and welcome to my new show, which I'm absolutely loving, mind. Right. So with yourself, a little bit of background on yourself. Andrew has done over 100 TV shows, actually probably like into the 100 TV shows, whether it be History Channel, Gaia Channel, Discovery Channel, Forbidden History, NASA's Unexplained Mysteries. He's done a TED Talk, X Talk, and you know absolutely everything from the ancient aliens, from the Egyptians to bees. And let's not just even go there. We'll go there down that rabbit hole in a bit. But tell me a little bit about yourself, Andrew, for all of the Americans out there, because you fled the country, and for all of my English friends over here. Tell me a bit about yourself, please. Introduce yourself.
Again, it's a real privilege to be on the show and to be on the show early. So I consider that an honor. You know, I moved from Chicago to London in '97, and I've always, before moving, I was always into like mysteries and unexplained things, and had traveled to India and Peru and all these places. But when I came to England, it was just eye-opening to me to be around so much, ancient history. I got really into the megalithic world, and that took me over to, ancient Egypt and all these other places. And because I think I have so much interest and enthusiasm for different areas, I have over 50 articles on my website, but those articles are like, for me, they're books. I mean, who has time to read a book? So if you can keep it down to well, I don't know. If you keep it down to like 10,000 words, you can read it in an hour, then, that's good. But people struggle to kind of define what genre I'm in, because
you know so much about so many things.
Well, like you, I'm so keen about so many different things, from bees to extraterrestrials. Let's talk later about why that word extraterrestrial is even used. Ancient Egypt to the Soviet era. I've got a lot of different passions in terms of history, and a lot of people do. And so I like to kind of celebrate them and write about a lot of different things.
Well, we'll get into those different things in a few minutes, but I'm going to ask the first question. And the first question would be, have you had a UFO experience? And with whom?
It's a great question. And,
it's an easy question, but I have to know.
This is an experience that, the first person I shared it with is our mutual friend, Nick Pope.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, Nick, I had this really bizarre thing happen to me. I need to run it by you. So what happened was, I was up in Scotland on business in Edinburgh, and I never ever get headaches, ever.
What year was this?
This was probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I was at the airport in just extreme agony. I mean, my head was exploding, and I would call it a headache, because I don't know what else to call it, a migraine. but it was worse than that. And I've never had it before. And I got on my EasyJet flight and just felt miserable. And I was sitting in the aisle seat, not the window seat. And we were about 10 minutes south of Edinburgh, heading towards London. And I literally look out the window. There's a passenger right next to me here. And I look out the window, and there is this silver three-sided object moving slowly but faster than the plane. And I hit the guy next to me, like, do you see that?
Wow.
And it was already gone. And it was one of those fleeting things where, what is this object doing at that elevation, moving that fast, that close to the plane?
Wow.
And when I mentioned it to Nick, he's like, well, that's curious, because that's one of your description matches one of the earliest descriptions of a UFO from the 50s. And what I kind of took away from that was I saw it, my only real UFO experience. I'll talk about some others that are, slightly different, not that up close and personal.
But they're all different. Every single encounter is different for everybody. No two are the same.
But it was in an altered state of consciousness. I was not myself. My head hurt so bad.
Oh yeah, of course.
I could barely, not pass out from the pain. And I started to wonder if that was something that caused me to morph into that consciousness.
A build-up.
But I'll tell you another one, and this is really funny because we spoke before the show, and I'm thinking to myself, there was another one. There was another one. Of course, there was another one. This was like 15 years ago, and I was living in London, and I woke up in the middle of the night. The cat was sleeping on the bed on top of me. I had my partner next to me. She was asleep. And I looked down at the end of the bed, and there's the gray. And it's the classic gray. And I'm not the slightest bit upset or worried or frightened. And I remember just kind of communing with it psychically, or just kind of being happy to see it. And that was that. But the cat was there. The cat was moving around. A partner was sleeping. So I've had a couple of experiences that I guess have both been in altered states of consciousness, extreme head pain and sleep.
Okay, so two things. First encounter, you could probably go back and through your records and find out the date of that, because there would be a radar report, or you'd know the airlines and everything. Everything can be traced back. That's why I say about my encounter in Brentwood, it involved military helicopters. Somewhere along the lines with that date, well, you would have a report for the military helicopters going to intercept it. The second encounter that you had, was that what stemmed me and you and Nick working together? And it was Lynn Pickett, Sue Blackmore as well, wasn't it? And it was about sleep paralysis. So the alien within. Is that what stemmed you doing that part of that documentary?
It really is. And for everyone's
wow.
I had the theme, but I didn't know what to call it. And you gave me the title because it was a title that you were working on for another project. So the Alien Within.
Well, it was a book. It was a book title that me and Nick were going to do about my encounters. So, and that's kind of how I feel. So, and it's. And I mean, Sue Blackmore was mainly going down the sleep paralysis. So when you're saying the grey at the end of your bed, I'm just wondering if that's what that stemmed from, you wanting to, research and look into, why this happens. Could it be this? Could it be that?
Yeah, very much so. And everyone is passionate about this. Are we alone? What about extraterrestrials? What about, life forms elsewhere in the universe? But until it happens to you, it doesn't really become alive and something that you're on a quest to understand.
I think the typical sentence is experience counts. It really does. You have to have that experience. Obviously, when you're having it by yourself, you think about all of the other alternatives, you know, you play devil's advocate in your head. And if you can't wake up that other person, or if that other person misses it, i.e. you're the passenger sitting next to you, you know, it does you go down that sort of like, oh my God, I need to find out more, because that makes you want to find out more about it. So I do want to talk to you in regards of obviously the NASA mysteries that you had done, but also, are we living inside the Earth? Now, I'm a really great fan of Courtney Brown, and I got into Courtney Brown in 96 when I got his first book, Cosmic Voyages, and what he calls this other realm is interterrestrial. Now, so this is what is quite interesting. Oh my God, I had it goosebumps last week. I got goosebumps everywhere. I understand that, you know, I can't explain where that realm is at all for me. You can't explain it where it is for you, but yet you have been like shadow banned because of your thought patterns and through your research. So tell us a bit more about are we living inside the Earth, please? Because, well,
that's an amazing proposition, and one that I've presented at Gaia at the Awakening Conference, and I've written about extensively. And the first place to start is the inner Earth. This notion.
Be careful! Don't get me taken down episode 3, please.
Well, I mean, it's entirely possible. I need to be careful. I'm shadow banned everywhere. I mean, if you add, thank you. It's a badge of honor. And if you add me on Instagram, it will say, "Are you sure you want to add?"
I know.
He's repeatedly.
Yes, and yes. Listen, I'm a bad girl. I got arrested at Area 51, so I fit into that category too. Yay!
Another serious badge of honor.
I'm loving it.
So there's so much evidence. I mean, we can't do it justice in this brief period of time to talk about the inner Earth. We'll talk about, are we living in it, in a moment, but the inner Earth, there's so many legends from every single country, every single era talks about civilizations that exist beneath ours. And the most famous scientists of all times, from Haley to Euler to Gauss, they all talk about the fact that the Earth probably is many levels with their own suns, their own rivers and oceans. And in Russia, I did a show for What on Earth about the Kola borehole that goes down 20 miles. Well, I'm sorry, it's like 9 miles, but it took 20 years to drill. And they're finding fossils. How can you find fossils at multiple miles into the Earth if there isn't life down there? And Admiral Byrd, everyone's kind of familiar with, right? And in his Operation High Jump,
explain Admiral Byrd, please.
Well, Admiral Byrd is like the most decorated American military person in history. And starting in like the late 1930s and into the 1940s, he is really pioneering the exploration of both poles.
Yes, of course. Yes, I do know. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And Operation High Jump, he gets in his plane, and unbeknownst to anyone, he keeps a private diary, which is his grandson's just produced in the last decade or so, which is fascinating. And, he's in his plane. The first hour, he sees a mammoth. This is in Antarctica, and you see a mammoth. Curiously, that's what the initiate Jules Verne wrote about in Journey to the Center of the Earth. They see a mammoth inside the Earth, and here's Admiral Byrd seeing a mammoth from his plane. And then a couple hours into it, it's all green, it's all lush.
Yeah, that's right.
All of a sudden, he sees these unusual craft.
There's a great documentary on this, actually.
Oh, God, there's so much.
Yeah.
And go to YouTube and just type in Admiral Byrd interview. And you can hear him talking about this huge continent that's unexplored. And is he talking about Antarctica or something even further afield? But after this expedition, and he finds all kinds of stuff. He meets with like the ruler of the inner Earth, and they tell him that, we will be there for you when your world is decimated. We'll come forth with all the history of arts and sciences that we preserve for you to restart your civilization. A bit kind of morbid, but that's what he was told. But he comes back from this Operation High Jump in 47, and he's interviewed by a Chilean newspaper, and he says, I got to tell you, we are under threat to be attacked by craft from either pole that can move so fast, you can't believe it. And
or under the water.
But that was in 47. What else happened in 47? You know, a few months later, you have Roswell. And then 2 weeks after that, you have the creation of the CIA and Department of Defense 2 weeks after Roswell happens. So this notion that there's other civilizations inside the Earth.
Did he describe them?
Is interesting. Yeah, he gives them a name. He talks about the city that his plane was just drawn to and landed by itself. Was like a big crystalline city. And, you know, the government shut him up right away. But the thing that so a lot of people have spoken about the inner Earth, and I've written about it extensively and lectured about it a lot. But the question that I've been asking is, are we also living inside the Earth? And your viewers are probably saying, what the is he talking about? So
I think you can swear. I generally do.
And, you know, so every single culture, again, from even the Book of Enoch, the Hebrew tradition, the Old Testament, the Quran, the Hopi Indian, the Mayan, they all talk about the Earth basically being a snow globe. You know what snow globes are?
Yeah.
As you're a kid, you go to all these different, buy a snow globe of Bermuda, whatever.
New York.
Yes. And they all talk about the fact that there is this impenetrable substance that separates the watery abyss from beyond from the dry earth below. And even some of the most esteemed PhDs in the States are quoted as saying, the earth is a closed system. You cannot leave. There is no place to go. Why are rainbows shaped like this? Why do NASA's spaceships look as though it's water being sprayed like a boat on a lake? Well, it's because they've hit the firmament. And you know, 10 years after Roswell, you've got Van Allen sending up balloons which shoot missiles, nuclear missiles up into the top of the atmosphere. Why would you do that? They're trying to break through the firmament, and they can't.
Well,
I mean, just to kind of set the scene, these amazing declassified documents only in the last few years have come out, and it's all about what Russia was doing during the Cold War. A lot of details, but if you manage to siphon through them, the Russians are saying that we have, the firmament's real, we've photographed it, we've measured its temperature, we've done all these things to examine it, and we can't get through it. It's a closed system. We cannot leave. And thus, if we can't leave, you know, and again, all
so like the Truman Show.
Yeah, I mean, so and we know the UFOs are real. Where are they coming from?
Well, not just UFOs. So we're talking orbs, we're talking Bigfoot, Sasquatch, we're talking absolutely ghosts, everything. So yeah, they pop in, they pop out, and they don't necessarily come from up there as they come down. They can come, just blink and be there. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, and you know, I've spoken to people who have had near-death experiences, and they've said, you know, it's just not exactly what you think it is. Where these craft are coming from, it's not out there. It's kind of more inward. And you see these UFOs, you see videos of them going into mountains, going into oceans.
Yeah. I saw that at Isetti Ranch. Quite amazing. Them coming out of Isetti Ranch. Yeah. And going into other stars.
I'm not here to say that the Earth isn't round, and I'm not here to say that the Earth is flat. But I think both of those suppositions are inaccurate.
Yeah.
If you look at the World Health Organization, if you look at the UN, look at NATO, look at the maps that they have all of our continents with a ring around them. And then some of them, and some ancient maps, show other continents beyond what is commonly termed the ice wall. And, there's a reason why 10 years after Roswell, NASA's created the treaty that says there's 50 nations on the planet. We can't agree a single thing from currency to politics, but we agree one thing: you can't go anywhere near Antarctica. Don't even think about it. Because that could be one of the areas where Access and Bird would attest to this, that these crafts might be coming from.
Big sigh. Big, but okay.
Well, and Nick always told me, he always reminded me when we were talking about the alien within, he said, one of the most famous cases in alien abduction science, because it is a science,
yep,
is somebody who is strapped to a chair with an observer all night. They're awake all night watching this person strapped to the chair. And in the morning, the person says, unbelievable. It took me up into the craft. They operated on me, blah, 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 blah.
But that's like having an out of body experience, isn't it? And that's a bit like that you're aware that you're in your bed and your astral self goes up. Oh my God, I got goosebumps. But it's your astral self is going somewhere. So you're consciously, I've had an experience where I've gone out of my body and looked down upon my body. And when I've looked up and seen me floating up there, that person of me up there has looked down upon me, and that person up there has said, beneath this one is the true one. And then as soon as I realized that, woo, straight back into my body, which is true. Because beneath this one is the true one. It's like the container of ourselves, right? So my astral body went out. So that's why I was always into Courtney Brown and the remote viewing type of stuff, and out of your body, like I spoke with Preston Dennett last week. So when you're right, when you are strapped down and someone is aware and watching you, you can subconsciously, your astral self goes somewhere else. And that's your subconscious is the most important part of ourselves. That's where everything is worked out. That is where everything is stored. So, what was the experiment with what was the example for that? It was
it was to show, and I think the example that you and I use a lot is in the UK, where I live. You listen to Radio 1, God forbid, it's horrible.
Yeah, and you tuned into Radio 2.
I could have picked a better example. But when Radio 1 is playing, Radio 4 and Radio 2 are playing, but you can't hear them. Tune into a frequency.
But unless you are tuned in to be able to access all three at the same time, which experiencers can do, or mediums can do, or remote viewers can do. So it's about the fine tuning of all of that.
I've had it, absolutely right. I've had experiencer friends come over right here on my patio, on my deck. I'm on the 7th floor, look out and go, do you see that? Look at, I'm like, and when they point it out, sometimes I see it, sometimes I don't, but they're just flabbergasted because they can see it. And
what are they seeing?
They're seeing UFOs. They're seeing them, and not far.
I'm coming over to yours to Skywatch.
Fantastic.
Yep.
You know what? And I'm thinking about this. You said something earlier, and I think it was you actually who turned me on to this amazing UFO abduction that occurred in Wales by a Muslim couple.
Oh, yes, I did.
There's a reason why
it wasn't in Wales, actually. It was in gosh.
Well, it's
it
right
was
on the border
It was on the outskirts of London. It was I want to say Shoreditch. It was Shoreditch. What? No, you would have lived in Shoreditch. I don't know. I'd have to think. Yes, but yes. Is that where she went in the bed and disappeared?
He alerted it to me. I got in the car and I drove, and it's right on the Welsh England border, and it's in Wales. And I call out them being Muslim because they have no tradition of aliens or UFOs like we do.
Well,
they have jinn. They have like the evil spirits. But yes. And this was fascinating because their story was the husband's in IT.
Yes. So it's Safe. His name is, and Jenny is her name. And it actually was on the outskirts of, it wasn't Wales. But
we must be thinking of a different one because I drove for hours to go visit them. I went to their home.
Unless they moved at that time. But did you go to the house where it actually happened?
Yeah, I went to the house where it actually happened. And what happened for the listeners, that she kept experiencing an abduction where she'd be taken during the night, and the husband would be like, "Trust me, that's not happening." She's like, "Oh, but it is." He's like, "Well, listen, I'm an IT. I'm going to bring home the webcam and I'm going to put it in the bedroom." So he does that, and nothing happens for a few nights, and then boom, in the morning, like third or fourth night, she goes, "I was taken up. I was abducted," and he's like, "Okay, when I get home from work, I'll have a look at the video." And there's the video. It's like something like 3:30 in the morning.
I've got goosebumps again. Yes, it's extraordinary.
And they're both, bless them, they're not small individuals. They're big, hearty, healthy individuals, and they're probably like 40 years old. And you watch the video, and at about 3:30, the sheets kind of go like this, and she's gone. And then a few minutes later, the sheets go like this, and she's back. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I want to see that bed. Because you have to be skeptical. You have to like keep an open mind and say, well, what if it would, but there's nothing about their culture or nothing about their, I met them. They had gotten rid of the mattress because they thought it was infected with the jinn and evil spirits. But they were both extremely authentic and had no motivation or anything to fabricate that. But here was a real physical.
I'll actually get her on, actually. So, we still speak. Yeah, we all still speak.
Really? Yes. I thought they moved back to like Saudi Arabia or someplace.
They did, but now they're somewhere else. But me and you can discuss that later. But no. So the situation is a bit like you're saying, strapped into a chair to the point of she actually would tie herself to Safe at night because I think something ridiculous like she was doing her ankle or her toe or her wrist. And I think there was only a few of us that heard about her, and they came down to stay with me. Never went up to their house, but it was Ben Hansen that I put in contact because obviously he had the TV show Fake and Fact, and I know it's very Hollywood and very glitzy, but they can recreate everything. And so Ben came over and went there, and it was one of their shows that they went to try and recreate it. And the footage is remarkable. Obviously, Safe holds the original footage. It got put onto the hard drive. Lots of people wanted to take it away to analyze it. It went, no, you're not analyzing the original one. But it was remarkable. She still she does still have experiences. And thank you for prompting me. I'll get Jen on. She's they're a lovely family, absolutely lovely family.
Nice. Super nice.
You're right, and they videoed it. So and that was back then. That was about 10. Then that's about 15 years ago, I think. 12.
Yeah. And it looked like a physical. I mean, she wasn't there. You could see that the whole bed.
Went.
Empty on her side.
And it was a bit like, when you huff over your sheets and you go onto your side and then you sort of like fall asleep, and then all of a sudden the fabric of the bed came back up. There was no way mechanically Jen could get herself up through the bed. There was no editing, there was nothing of that. And yes, Safe is absolutely, that's what he does for a living, is all of that. But there was, back then people did analyze it, and no. But yeah, it was remarkable. And there, do you know what? I had this discussion with another experiencer that's going to come on as well. And because it is all about people have had experiences on this, and obviously, and wherever we all want to go down that rabbit hole with it. But he actually said to me, and it is really, really true, that we all come into this in very different parts, and it's whatever we can help each other with, that we are trying, because it's still so many unanswered questions, isn't it? And for her and for her husband, I mean, they were mortified, because they did think it was jinn, and they are very religious. And then, the other children in the house, it was all of that factor. But yeah, they're a lovely, solid family. But
yeah, very much so. But and what it did for me is, here I am thinking confidently that it's all interterrestrial.
Yes.
And here's something that appears to have been physical. But I mentioned earlier the term, and I'd be curious, where exactly extraterrestrial came from, because break those words down. You're talking about ground-based, terrestrial, ground, and we have this.
True.
We have this wall around us, according to some, that has all of our continents, and beyond it are other continents. And if Antarctica, we don't know about. And if Antarctica is a way of going through that alleged ice wall into these other continents, maybe that's one of the ways in which these crafts and these beings are coming into our world. So it's,
That's interesting, yeah.
Why isn't it called extra cosmological, or but terrestrial just infers that it's from the earth. And if there's a dome above us, and the people who think that sounds ridiculous, I get it. Read the last article on my website, which is about this.
Do you want to plug your website now? Just say what it is.
AndrewGough.com. I go to these conferences and I speak, and everyone's got their big table and they're selling DVDs. I have no products. I'm not selling anything. So it's all
because it's all up here. You like all the rest of them. You've got it all up there.
I don't know about that. But it's unbelievable, really, when you think about it. And if you start, question everything.
Yeah,
we have been lied to as a civilization so dramatically. They call it broadcasting for a reason. They call it programming and programs for a reason. And I'm not sure if your viewers have gotten into Tartaria.
I've only got probably 2.
Me. No, that's not true. And there's been many great resets. And we've just escaped another attempt. And I'm not making up that term. I'm not making up any of this. Read what the WEF is saying. Read what world leaders have been saying. Pharmaceuticals have been saying about their objective research agenda 230, and they're not trying to hide it. The Great Reset, build back better. Really? So that isn't the first time that a Great Reset has been done. Research the mud flood. And
I'm going to stop you there on the reset, because we are going to reset in a few minutes. We're going to go into commercial break, and we will be back shortly with Brigitte Barclay and Andrew Gough to talk more about the parallel and intergalactic universe that we live in.
Are you thinking about purchasing a wood-fired heating or cooking appliance but don't know where to start? The new book, Wood-Fired Heating and Cooking, will guide you through the process and make the decision much easier. Find out about wood stoves, wood-burning fireplace inserts, masonry heaters, cook stoves, brick ovens, and more. Learn about operation and maintenance, buying and storing wood, even how to make your own charcoal. A bonus section includes delicious recipes for cooking in a wood-burning oven, grill, tandoori oven, or smoker. The wise homeowner, prepper, or homesteader will have the ability to heat their home with wood when the power goes out or to save money on increasing gas bills. Wood-Fired Heating and Cooking is available at Amazon. Visit www.woodfiredpub.com for more information. That's woodfiredpub.com.
It's almost here, ladies and gentlemen. The UNX Network Year 2 anniversary at XCon 2023. XCon is being held this year from October the 30th to November 1st at the beautiful Oasis Hotel and Conference Center in Springfield, Missouri. Top speakers include host of America Unearthed, Scott Walter, plus Haley Ramsey, Sev Tak, UNX's very own Maureen Richmond and Dan Terry, Mindy Toutfest, Harriet McFeely, Forrest Crawford, and many more. And they're all coming to deliver new information on topics like UFOs, alien encounters, cryptids and ancient secrets, and real hauntings from the afterlife. Join us for the film premiere of A Haunting in Blue Hill. And don't miss the Mad Hatter Paranormal Halloween Bash, Banquet, and Costume Contest on All Hallows Eve, October 31st. So join us as we close out the 2023 conference season. Info and tickets are available now at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com, and we'll see you there.
Hi there, welcome back to the UNX Network. Myself is Brigitte Barclay, and tonight I am speaking to an Andrew Gough. So you need to go back to all of the things that we've been talking about, and welcome back, Andrew. Sorry to cut you off, new to all of this. Okay, so keep going on where you were.
Yeah, no, I'm usually cut off or censored when I'm talking about.
Yes, no rude words, or don't say anything about anything that you shouldn't do.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to, question everything. And everyone's asking and expecting there to be disclosure, right? And I think there's so many lies. Don't get me started on NASA, which I believe is.
I think I'm going to have to get you back every month, once a month. You're going to be on.
They don't lie a little bit. They've lied about
Yes.
everything. You'd have to be a
Yeah.
moron to buy into NASA. So where's all that money going? Well, nefarious purposes, probably deep underground military bases that are used for things we can't talk about in this show. But the whole thing about NASA is they've lost all of the footage. Imagine that of the trips to the moon. Now, the moon is 238,000 miles from Earth. But yet Obama and NASA say the goal of NASA is to get past low Earth orbit. That's at 1,000 miles. And that is where the firmament is. And if you Google this or look at it on the article on my website, the Civilian Space Authority, I forget their precise name, but it's the only non-subsidized, non-NASA professional launch of a rocket in history. 2014, it goes up, and at 72 miles, it hits something really soft. It doesn't explode. It sits there. And then after a couple of minutes, it falls back down.
But do you see that also on UFOs as well? And you also, on the new TV show Skinwalker's Ranch, they keep coming across when they send rockets up, things happen, or certain things within helicopter range, everything has to stop at a certain level as well.
Well, and that, exactly. So that's 1,000 miles. I mean, 238,000 miles above the Earth is the moon. And that's not even the goal anymore. The goal is to get above low Earth orbit. And that's just ridiculous. That's where the Van Allen belt is. That's where they were trying to launch Operation Fishbowl to all these nuclear weapons to try to get through the firmament.
That's a great name for it, obviously. Operation Fishbowl. Wow, that's great.
The Quran talks about the fact that there's multiple firmaments on this thing we call Earth. And Michael DeGray, who did Blue Planet, he filmed it. It was his documentary, and it debuted, by the way, the day after September 11th, just coincidentally. But he would later be interviewed about the scene where he's in a submarine at the bottom of the ocean, and he's trying to get, they're on the bottom of the ocean. And at the bottom of the ocean, they see a lake. And they're like, but we're already at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, wow.
So they go over to the lake in the submarine and they bounce off of it. They can't get through the lake. They've hit something that's so saline, so dense, but yet it's made out of water, which is exactly what the firmament's supposed to be, made out of water to separate the watery abyss from the dry land below. And so in this interview, when he's talking about this, he's like, we have no idea what this thing is. 2 weeks later, his helicopter explodes and he's dead.
Oh, wow.
So
is that documentary still, is it still for people to be able to access?
Yeah. So interview,
that's good.
There's a link in my article, and he's really passionate about, I'm an expert on this. How can there be water below the bottom of the ocean? Well, it's one of the firmaments, probably separating our world from one below us.
Wow.
And if you ask me what's 7,912,000 divided by 16, I'm going
to ask you that, right?
I would tell you I have no idea, but I know it's not 0, and I know it's not 5. How do you know that? Well, I just know. So
yeah, okay.
I don't know what it is. So I don't know what the shape of the Earth is, but I'm thinking more along the line of like a high rise with different floors and stairs going between them. Different dimensions, if you will, and we can't leave ours.
Well, astrally or dream state or okay, right. With everyone else's thought process, what is the most thought-provoking thing that has happened to yourself?
Gosh, the most thought-provoking that I could say on the air. I'm not sure if I can even go. No, seriously. I think when you wake up and see a gray, that's pretty thought-provoking because, there's what 2% of the population that has DMT actively triggered in their brain. And so, maybe you don't need drugs but to experience these things, or drumming, or altered states of consciousness. But I'd be remiss with all the work I've done on bees, and you being such an enthusiastic and a real,
beekeeper.
The sound of bees humming.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Has been noted in 3 or 4 different areas of state changes in consciousness.
Absolutely.
Near-death experiences, yoga, I'm going apparitions, like at Fatima. People said, "So you heard buzzing?" No, it wasn't buzzing. It was bees. Different. It was bees. And the
Oh,
other one is abductees. Alien
yeah.
abductees report the sound of bees buzzing.
Well, one of my experiences happened in Topanga Canyon, but it wasn't buzzing, it was tones. It was a frequency tone, a bit like when you have a hearing test. But go back to my bees. When I sit outside with my bees for cups of tea and cups of coffee, there is nothing more magical than to just watch them and just be surrounded with them. And it is so soul loving. It truly, and the smell and just them watching, and they're totally aware of who you are. They know that you're their landlady and looking after them and helping them. I've got 3 hives, and so because also in obviously Egypt, they're hydroglyphs, they're all of the beautiful carvings of bees, along with the same. Well, talk to me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about Egypt, the civilization that lasted maybe 2,000 or 3,000 years. You look at the King's List, the Palermo Stone, 38,000 years. Excuse me. It was a really, really long dynasty, which is why so many of us who go there feel like we've lived there before, because we probably have. But what is Egypt? The area around Cairo is called Tabiti, land of the bee. The pharaoh's title is beekeeper. There's a picture of the bee in the pharaoh's cartouche. Neith lived in the house of the bee in Sais, and Osiris is buried in the mansion of the bee in Sais. Sais is the place where the story of Atlantis comes from. There's a really lost tradition about bees that is very esoteric.
I just knew that this wasn't going to be one episode. Because it's just not going to be one episode. Right, okay. So the most thought-provoking for you was the grey at the end of your bed.
Yeah, I think so. I can't,
Wow. Okay. Because
I
you've been to some amazing places, and so you must have, like, while you've been there, had experiences, high strangeness.
It's a little bit off piece, but some high strangeness is one of the things. I've always been obsessed with Akhenaten, the heretic king of Egypt, who introduced monotheism when there was all these different gods and goddesses. And back in the day, this is like 15, 16 years, 17 years ago, I went with David Roll, Egyptologist, very famous. And we went with a small group of maybe 15 people, drove in a 4x4 hours up the mountain to Akhenaten's tomb in Middle Egypt. And as you know, I'm a kind of a keen photographer, so I had my tripod.
God, you're just amazing.
I was in Nefertiti's chamber. She was buried with Akhenaten, and I was waiting for all the people to get out of my way. Just get out of my way so I can take this photo. And they all moved like 100 meters down the tomb complex. And I was getting ready to take my photo, and I heard the door closed. They've left. Lights are out, and I'm locked in Akhenaten's tomb. And
with no password to get out. Oh God!
No way.
They probably can't hear you. Oh God!
And I experienced this. It's coming. It's coming. I feel it. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
Oh.
So I left a lot of my equipment there, literally crawled on my hands and knees, like 100 meters to get back to the door, pitch dark, and banging on the door. And eventually I was let out by the local bandit.
So you were winded?
I felt, it sounds crazy, but I felt like it entered me. And I felt it getting closer. And I thought, well,
hot, cold?
Cold, but it was unwelcome. And,
okay.
I thought, okay, you're just scared shitless, really, because you've been locked in this big, massive tomb, and your ride is now heading back to town. How will you ever get out of it? But some really strange things happened that night. And from that time onwards, things weren't quite the same.
What, like a possession?
Well, yes. I mean, for instance, when I would go unconscious, like I'm daydreaming, I'm just taking a break from work or writing, and I would see like this. That sounds nuts, I know. This really unhappy, unapproving face. I would see it in the ceramics. I would see it on the wall. I would see it somewhere, and I just felt like, oh, and then for years, I had people coming up to me and going, you can get rid of those. I'm like, what?
Oh, you had an attachment.
What? They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, attach." I'm like, oh.
Mm.
And I thought it was all bollocks until someone I really respected said that. And then I'm like, okay. So I went to a guy who does spirit release, and I write about this. My friend Steven is there, and this thing doesn't want to go. And my chair that I'm strapped to, like a petulant child, goes up into the air, and back down again, because it doesn't want to leave. And eventually, it was like an exorcism. Eventually,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
they were able to get this entity out. So I would say that was probably one of the weirdest experiences. And explains a lot, really.
Well, so how long was this attachment attached to you?
It was probably there for 6 or 7 years.
Really? You let it go on that long?
Well, I didn't. I just thought I was being kind of imaginative by seeing these unhappy faces wherever I sort of went unconscious and looked, and I didn't buy any of this. You've got something attached to you, because I thought it was
woo.
But I've come to realize it's
it's very real.
It's very real, and
yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I didn't expect that for a story. That's a great story. So did he say anything? What it was? Could you see anything in your mind's eye?
Yeah,
were you battling it?
Allegedly, was a high priest of Akhenaten.
Gosh,
didn't want to leave this realm, And the interesting thing is, I think we've spoken offline a little bit about this, but I have two different forms of, and I wonder if your listeners have something similar, different states of consciousness. One, I get every few years, where it's in the middle of the day, I'll be walking around and, doing things, and all of a sudden, wow, everything is like, it's not Earth. It's kind of orange, but it's a place that feels like, oh, I'm back again. This is great. I'm loving it. This is really, I missed this.
Oh, can I go on that vacation? I don't get that.
Then it just goes away. And you try so hard to keep it, but by trying to keep it, you send it away. The other one is
interesting.
It's definitely Earth, and it's definitely me, but the memories are different, and what's going on now is different. And I also, that sounds like a parallel timeline. And I think when you go and you have your fortune told, and you have a tarot reading done, and it's like, here's what I see. Well, that's just one timeline. And if it doesn't come through, we're like, oh, that's all rubbish. And it might be rubbish, but there's multiple timelines. And I think the world we're in is switching more rapidly from timeline to timeline than it ever has been, I think.
Well, very true. I mean, gosh, I'd like to see what you saw. as in like, I know what you mean, like a daydream. I get that in the morning because I love dreaming, and sometimes I can, have the one dream, or I can have multiple dreams. And then when you wake up in the morning, you've got those images in your head. I've generally got pen and paper next to me, so I'll just sort of soundbite, what's happened, and then all throughout the day, things will ping back to me. But you're right that you've got to kind of stay very still and try and grasp it to keep hold of that dream, because dreams also, I believe, in this life are so important to us. You know, there are messages that are from other states that are shown to us, basically. Wow. Okay. Right. We haven't got long, but I really, because I really love what you talk about the Alaskan Triangle. So can you just sort of like summarize it? And we're just going to have to get you on, like so I think every month for an hour every month, an episode on this, episode on that. Oh gosh.
That would be really fun.
3 minutes. Oh, sugar. Right.
We'll
3 minutes. Oh no. Well, do your best in 3 minutes. But also I want you to plug your website, and I want you to plug your Facebook as well, which everyone can go to. I think Race will put it underneath as well, and also it's on the summary. But go on and go for it in 2 minutes, whatever you want to talk about. I do not care, because everything you say is absolutely bloody amazing.
Oh, you're too funny. Well, all of social media is banned. I post something on Instagram and 6 people will see it because my account's been deleted so many. You know, in my head, it's so funny. On Instagram, when I had 2,000 photos, 9,000. In my head, I always had the day when I have 15,000 photos, that's going to be wonderful. And not just any photos, but really good photos.
Yeah.
The day,
mainly graveyards. Amazing. Vampires.
But the day I posted my 15,000th photo in my account, on the day, it's like, how prophetic is that? And pathetic, but never mind. You mentioned Alaska Triangle. I love Alaska. Alaska, you know, I once lost a deal at work because I took like AXA insurance from Paris to Dallas, Texas, and I had shirts put on their beds in the hotel that said, Texas, bigger than France. I thought that was funny. They took such great offense. Idiot. I lost the deal. But Alaska
small-minded.
Yeah. Alaska is twice the size of Texas. Texas is bigger than France. So Alaska is like the size of Europe. And unlike the Bermuda Triangle, which I think is all completely explainable, I'm sorry, it was created as a bit of a promotion for a magazine back in the 60s. But the Alaska is so uninvestigated. There's so much going on there. Yeah. In particular, underground pyramids to Sasquatch, and
that's why we should have started off this show with that, because oh my god, no, you'll definitely have to get it, because that is we're just go on in.
Oh no, we're both so excited about that topic because it ties in with the UFOs and the whole.
I know it does.
It's, you know, there's a place in England that I think should be our Area 51, and it's not Rendlesham. It's Cannock Chase by Birmingham.
Oh, I know. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's been brought up quite a lot recently.
Children, UFOs, all of it. It's like a paranormal hotspot, like Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, I know. God, I want to go to Skinwalker Ranch. I'm going to make a few calls. I really do. I would bring on the high strangeness. I really would love to. Well, okay, so I am definitely, because that is an episode in itself. You're right. It's about Sasquatch. It's about UFOs. It's about unexplained phenomena coming out of the water, or what they've found there. You know what? People just, I mean, and we're going to be talking, you know, it's, and also the drilling as well. You know that, you know, of what they've found. It's another episode in itself, and I
traveled all the way to Bhutan in search of the Yeti, and went through the mountains of Bhutan with a guide looking for Yeti. So
well, you are so gonna love somebody. I'm not going to give it away now, but there is somebody that is going to come on that that it's related to Sasquatch, and
fantastic.
I found him in lockdown. I've got goosebumps as I say it, but I've also, through listening to his podcasts, have had experiences. Now, I am in England, and UFOs, orbs, wherever, they're not necessarily outside. They're not necessarily in the water. They can come into the house. They can come into your bedroom, kitchen, blah, 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 blah. Just like a bee or a fly could go anywhere. All right. And I've had Sasquatch experiences 3 times. And that's just amazing.
I did not know that.
No, well, that's another conversation. But I'm not going to give it away to who it is, but it is absolutely amazing. The guy that's going to come on, and well, me and you have a chat after the show. I'll just give you a call. But yeah, that is, he doesn't want anything. He doesn't want any TV documentaries made on it. He's on his own journey, and he's been doing it for over 10 years. And I totally get what he's doing. And he's just the same as everybody else. He's doing the right thing. He doesn't want anyone else's rights to get to it or anything like that. And because of it. Now, what I want to say, Nefertia, what did you say one of the kings or the queens was called? What did you say? What did you say to me? Something Nefer something.
If memory serves, Nefertiti was also buried in the
Nefertiti.
complex with Akhenaten.
Say that word again for me.
Nefertiti. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, okay. That's very interesting as well, because as in an energy, very interesting of what that energy holds. Right. I am going to have to round this up. I've got Race typing away to me. Right. So listen, Andrew, I want to say a huge thank you. This is not just going to be the only show that you're going to be doing with me. We're not going to get you shadow banned on my time, darling. Right. Okay. Right. So yeah, we'll show them how to do it. Right. So I want to say a big thank you. Race is going to put up your website, which is andrewgough.com or andrewgough.co.uk. You can find him on Facebook. I've put the links up there to the show. I want to say a huge thank you. And thank you for being such a great friend for me over the years. And after this, I'm going to make a cuppa and then I'm going to give you a call. All right. And then we can have a little chat. All right. Listen, thank you ever so much. And next week, guys, I want to say that my guest is, we're going to go down the sort of Halloweeny route. It is a Nick Redfern. Nick Redfern is known for lots and lots of beautiful books talking about various things on different subjects, whether it be Shadow Man, Area 51, absolutely everything. Cryptozoology. He's English, living out in the States, and he's another good friend of mine, and I'm going to get him on for next week's show for a Halloweeny show. All right. So thank you from me, Brigitte Barclay, here on The Naked Truth. See you next week. Bye.